Hello CraftDee family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So CraftDee. For today's DIY projects, I have some of my favorite winter neutral and holiday style DIYs that you can use to decorate your home using Dollar Tree items and scraps of wood. Now these projects are all put together in one video to inspire you and help get you started on holiday projects. Now as always, all of the projects I create have complete supply lists in the description box, so you can easily use it for reference as you gather up your supplies. Now before we start, I have to say, hey to all of my subscribers, and if you're a new visitor to my channel today, I hope you consider subscribing as well, and stick around to enjoy these crafts and all of the tips that I will share along the way. So now, let's jump right into the projects. So we're going to start with 4 paint sticks that I got from Lowe's in a 10-pack, also some large craft sticks from Lowe's as well, and then I'm going to use some of these wood beads and 4 candles from the Dollar Tree. I'm also going to use some of this ribbon that I got on clearance last year, and this is Burlap Ribbon. And so we're going to start with adding our 4 paint sticks together, and we're just going to lay them out with the handles going opposite of each other for each row. Now we do want to make sure that all the printed side is up. And now we're going to take those large craft sticks and I'm going to cut 3 of them in half. Now I'm just going to hot glue these into place, and I like to start by hot gluing one of the halves of the sticks at each end first. And then I'm going to take the remaining 4 halves and I'm just going to space them out evenly in between. And now we have 1 solid piece. Now we could take 6 of those beads. Now these are 20mm size beads, and I did get these from Amazon. So I'm just going to apply 6 of them to the bottom, evenly spaced, and I'm going to apply them with hot glue. And here are all of our beads nice and secure into place. Now, if you're unable to get the beads, you can also use Dollar Tree wood cubes or even the Jenga blocks. So now to finish my wood, I'm going to use a mixture of water and this nutmeg brown acrylic paint for a stain. Now, I usually use my Jacobian Minwax stain, but I wanted to show you guys that you can really use an acrylic and water mix for your stain as well, and I wanted a lighter color for this project. So this is really easy to mix. It's about, a couple of drops of paint to a couple of tablespoons of water, and it really turned out nice. Now we're going to set that to the side to dry, and we're going to start working on our candles. So go ahead and remove all of the plastic encasing off the candles. Now we're also going to use some of this burlap ribbon. Now we can use the regular burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I had this wide one on hand, but we're going to cut a length that would wrap around 1 candle. Now I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to be cutting mine in half because it is too wide. So I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half to create a cut line and cut it right down the center. And then make sure you cut off those wired edges as well. So now one of our candles will be double high. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack those up, and I'm simply going to tape them together with some clear Scotch tape right down the center. Now these ribbon will be wrapped around the middle of them. So what I'm going to do is I wanted to create a little frayed look. So I'm pulling off several strands on each side of that ribbon just to give it that nice little frayed edge look. Now to even up our frayed edge, I'm just going to take my scissors and clip it nice and even. Now once it looks very good and it's good to go, we're going to go ahead and take our hot glue, and I'm just going to hot glue those ends into place. Now we're going to repeat this for our smaller candles as well, and of course we'll remove a little bit more, and it'll be the same width, but we're going to need to trim that down. So instead of trimming them manually, I decided to go ahead and take my mat and trim them with my rolling cutter, which would make it nice and easy. Now the Dollar Tree does have their version of this rolling cutter and cutting mat, so if you happen to get some, you should try that out. It really works well. So then we're just going to wrap those pieces around our smaller candles and then hot glue those into place as well. So now all of our candles are nice and wrapped. So now I'm going to take a few pieces of this frosted greenery and I'm going to hot glue one of these frosted greenery pieces in the center of each candle. And once that's done, I'm going to take some of this white berry garland that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to wrap it one time around the candle and twist it in the back. Since it is wired, it'll be nice and secure into place. Go ahead and clip those ends, and there you go. Now once all of your candles have those berries, I'm going to add some of these mini pine cones, and I am just going to apply one of these mini pine cones on each side of that frosted greenery piece. And then to give it a nice frosty winter look, I'm just going to lightly dab a little bit of that white acrylic paint on those pine cones. And here are all of our candles nice and completed. So our tray is dry now and we can just lay our tray out. We're going to grab a few full pieces of some of that frosted greenery I had left over, and we are going to stage that tray with the 3 candles. And here is what it looks like. Oh my goodness, I love how this turned out. Now I think these candles perfectly fit into a winter theme with the pine cones and the frosted greenery. It really looks nice and cozy. And I love how the beads look like the perfect little feet for this tray. You would never know that this was just some paint sticks, and it really does have a high-end look. One full microfiber mop head from the Dollar Tree, and we'll need 1 candy cane shaped wreath from the Dollar Tree. Now the first thing we're going to do is to prep the mop head just like we did before, and this one resulted in 4 strands. So we're going to be wrapping the strands around the candy cane form, and we just want to start by tying the end of the strand to the end of the form. Now I'm just going to wrap the strand around snug around the form. Now I like to wrap a few rounds and then kind of push the strands closely together to make sure that there are no gaps. Now once that first strand runs out, you just tie on the next one, and you just tie it in a double knot and trim down the tails. And once that's secure, just keep wrapping around until you need to tie on the remaining strands. Now once you get to the end, you just want to tie the end of your strand to the candy cane form and then tuck those tails right in. Now the only place that I will use hot glue on this is the ends of the cane, and I'm just going to add it to the edge and then press that last strand into place. So now we can decorate our wreath. So I'm going to gather up some floral picks and greenery to decorate. Now to secure these, I will cut a piece of jute string and I'll place it underneath the wreath to secure them. So we're going to start by arranging the decorations right on top of that wreath and just arrange them however you like. Now once everything looks good, you can go ahead and tie everything together with that piece of jute string. And then we're going to cut off the ends of that jute string, and we're going to cover up this tie with that ribbon, and we're just going to tie it around the wreath in a bow. And now you have finished this super easy project. And check it out. I mean, who would ever know that this beautiful wreath was made with a mop head? Now the detail in these fibers looks so great on this form, and I absolutely love how it turned out. And since the Greenery bundle is just tied on, you can swap it out for different colors during your holiday season. Now I think that this would even look great with two canes crossed with a large bundle in the middle. You guys have to let me know what you think about this project in the comments below. Some pieces of scrap wood or wood planks. We'll need some of this berry garland from the Dollar Tree, and we'll also need some jute twine. Now the first thing we're going to do is cut 3 pieces of wood to 12 inches, and I'm using pieces of a 1x4x8 from the Home Depot. Now if you don't have a means to cut the wood, most Home Depot stores will do this for you. Now if you want to use a Dollar Tree alternative, you can use the wood tumbling tower blocks by adhering them all together, and to make the size of the plank, you'll need 36 blocks. So the next thing we're going to do is stain our planks, and I'm going to use my favorite Jacobean stain by Minwax. Now you can also use diluted acrylic paint applied with a cloth. You can achieve the same look. Now what you want to do is you want to stain the front, the sides, and each end of all the wood planks. Now once all the pieces are stained, you just want to sit them to the side to completely dry. And now that they're dry, we can start to decorate our planks. Now I'm going to be using this white marker pen from the Dollar Tree to draw out our tree design on each piece. Now this first tree is going to be a tall and skinny tree with lots of little wispy branches. Now the second tree is going to be a fuller tree, and it's going to have several tiered layers. Now this third tree will be a triangular tree with lots of fun dots, and I'm just going to use my ruler to make the triangle nice and even. Now to add the trees to the planks, I will be using some white acrylic paint and a fine tipped paint brush. Now for this tall tree, I'm going to start by adding the long trunk base first. And then I'm going to start adding in those wispy branches on both sides. You can just have fun with this. And here is what it will look like when it's completed. Now you want to repeat this process for the next 2 trees, and you want to let them completely dry. Now to embellish our planks, I'm going to use this wired berry garland, and I'm also going to use some jute twine. Now all we need to do is we're just going to wrap that garland around the top of each plank, and we want to do this about 4 or 5 times. Now once it looks the way you want it, just go ahead and clip the ends, and since it's wire, you can just twist it together to secure it. So then you can go ahead and then repeat this for your other 2 planks. Now I decided to mix my finishes, and I ended up making one wrapped with twine, but you can finish these however you like. Now just tie those ends together, and there you go. Your set of 3 planks is completed. And here is the set on display. Now I absolutely love how they turned out. Now I think that the rich wood color paired with the twine and berries really looks high end, and no one would guess that you can make it for less than $3. You guys have to let me know what you think of this project in the comments below. Small round vase bowls from the Dollar Tree, and 1 2-pack of the glass tea light holders from Dollar Tree. Now the first thing we're going to do is take all of the pieces out and clean the bottoms where we'll be adhering them together. Now if you want a permanent bond, use some of this E6000 with your hot glue, but since I'll be repurposing these pieces, I'll only use my high temperature hot glue for these today. You just want to add a generous amount of whatever adhesive of your choices to the bottom of the bowl and then place the tea light holder on top. And then let them both sit to bond. Now once they're dry, you want to apply a couple coats of your favorite spray, your chalk paint or acrylic paint. So now that the paint is dry, we can decorate our pieces. Now I will be using some of these berry bunches and also some greenery I had on hand. Now I'll be adding a small ribbon tie around the bottom of the base to tie into look, and this is completely optional. And then you can start to add your greenery in the vases in whatever desired arrangement of your choice. So once my greenery is added, I'm going to add some berry stems, and I'm just going to clip the stems out to add to the arrangement. Now I'm going to be adding 2 bunches into each one of the vases. And then to top these off, I will be adding a frosty pine cone that I snatched off another Dollar Tree bundle, and I'm going to place that in each of the vases. And that is it. And here are these sweet little vases on display, and I love the pop of color in this. Now the sleek white color and shape of the vase almost has a modern vibe, and the ribbon is totally optional, and your choice of greenery may be the star of the show. Now I love that you can use these for all seasons. Now I really hope that you are enjoying these crafts so far, and I just wanted to pop in and let you know that you can follow me on all these platforms below as She So Crafty. Now for this project, I'm going to be using this scrap of wood that is 17 inches by 6 inches. Now the first thing we're going to do is cut 2-inch slices and then cut 2 pieces at 3.5 inches tall, 3 pieces at 4.5 inches tall, and 2 pieces at 6 inches tall. Now if you want to use a Dollar Tree alternative, you can certainly use those wood tumbling tower blocks by adhering them together, and for the 6-inch piece you will need 9 blocks. For the 4.5-inch piece, you'll need 7 or 8 blocks, and for the 3.5-inch piece, you'll need 6 blocks. So now what we're going to do is take all of our blocks and we want to lay them out to be painted, and we will be using that cardinal red acrylic paint again for this project. Now all we're going to do here is we're going to apply one nice coat of that paint to all the sides of the blocks, and you do want to let them dry completely. Now once all the blocks are dry, we're going to add a distressed look, and we will be using a pavement gray acrylic color. So then we're going to take our chip brush, and what we're going to do is dry brush that color on, and we want to do this around the edges and also lightly on the face. Now dry brushing is just lightly stroking it and giving it that aged worn look. Now once these are all dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take some sandpaper and we're going to sand those edges down to have that worn, weathered look, bringing some of that natural wood color through. And here's what they will look like. So next what we're going to do is we're going to organize the pieces in the order that we want our word to be spelled out, and we will be spelling out believe. And then I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to write out the letters. Now I'm just going to write a very tall, skinny type font for my lettering. And then I'm going to take that white marker again and I'm going to trace over those letters so we can see them just a little bit better. So now I'll take my acrylic paint and I'm going to paint over the letters on these blocks. Now I'm just going to use a fine tip brush to do this. And here are all of my letters painted. Now I did think that these looked great, but I really wanted them to be a bit bolder. So my paint pen was MIA, so I used my chalk pen to go over the letters so they would stand out a little better. And I'm just going to go over the letters over that paint with this chalk pen. I think this chisel tip makes a huge difference. I love it so much more. And now all you have to do is place these on display in your favorite location. Now I really love the distressed look on these, and they really do look high-end. Now I did salvage this wood from a scrap pile, so that makes this even better. Now I believe that you will have fun making these too. For this project, we'll start with 2 of these triangle signs from the Dollar Tree, some of these wood houses from Dollar General, and more of this buffalo check fabric I got from Joann's. So the first thing we're going to do is to grab that bag of wood houses, and we're going to remove those pieces. Now after sorting through them, I decided to use 2 of the smaller size houses for this project. And then we're going to take our frames and remove them from the packaging. We also want to remove that little circle design on top. Now, no need to worry about the residue left behind since I will be sanding this off later. So now we're going to get everything ready to paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove those inserts from the frames. Now I will be using this white chalk paint to paint my frames and my houses. But first, I'm going to sand down that little bit of glue residue off the top of the frame. So now what we're going to do is just apply a coat of that chalk paint to the frames and also to the houses. Now when I paint my houses, I like to start on the outside first. And then once the outside is covered, then I'll paint the face of the house and also in the windows and openings. And then just repeat this for the second house. Now you want to set all these to the side to dry. And now you can grab those picture inserts in your fabric or your scrapbook paper. Now you want to position your inserts where they will be aligned evenly with the pattern. And then take your Mod Podge, and what you want to do is you want to apply it to the front of your insert. And then go ahead and place it face down on your fabric. And then you're going to repeat the process for the second insert. And now all you have to do is trim off all of that excess fabric. And then you can cut out your inserts. And now that they're all nice and trimmed, we can go ahead and grab your frames, and we're going to place our inserts back in. Now you do want to be careful with those little clippies. I did break one off, but it doesn't impact it. So now everything is inside. We're going to grab those houses. Now what you want to do is apply just a bit of hot glue to the back, and you want to apply it to the corner of the frame. And then you want to do the same for the other piece. Now I had some of these little bottle brush trees left over from another project, but these are also sold at the Dollar Tree. But to help my trees lay flat in my frame, I'm just going to trim the back just a little bit, and then I'm going to apply some hot glue to the back and apply it in place, and do the same for that second tree. Now in my frames, I have a large and a small tree bundled. Now after adding trees to the second frame, this is what they'll look like. So now I'm going to add some small pine cones that I had on hand, and I will be adding a frosted effect with this white acrylic paint. Now all you want to do is just dab it on the outside and in the inside of those cones. Now if you need to purchase these cones, I did see these at Dollar General for $1 for a 12-pack. So now that my pine cones are nice and dry, we can add them to our frames. Now what we're going to do is we're going to place 3 of these small pine cones at the top of each frame. Now once they are positioned the way you like, you can just go ahead and hot glue them into place. And here are your frames, all complete. And now we can place these on display. Now I think these turned out absolutely great. Now I'm loving the neutral color palette on these, and it creates a nice clean palette. Now these houses are the perfect accent to these, and there's so many in the package to choose from. And I love the added pine cones to the top. However you decide to decorate with these, they will look super cute. Now we're going to use 2 of these engraved kind of crystal-like glasses from the Dollar Tree, and also a bag of these little log pieces. We're also going to use 2 of the votive size candles. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our glasses and we're going to take those logs. Now I want to open up those logs, and I kind of want to weed out all the ones that are irregular and about the same size each. And we're going to start applying these along the bottom of that glass. Now we're only going to use some hot glue for this, or you can use E6000 if you like. Now we're going to apply these along the bottom of that glass, and you kind of want to rotate the different colors and textures to give it a more appealing look. Now once that's done, just go ahead and repeat this for your other glass. So I'm going to take some more of that green wired garland, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap that garland around the bottom of the glass in the middle of those little log pieces. Now just trim it down to size, and then just hot glue it into place. And here is what it looks like. So we're going to repeat this for the other glass. Now once those are both applied, let's go ahead and take our acrylic paint and give it our snowy effect. You just want to lightly dust it with that acrylic paint all the way around. Now you can add some to the logs as well, and also add some salt if you wanted to give it a more snowy look, but I think this minimalistic look is good for me. So now to fill our glasses, I am just going to add some of these white rocks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to fill mine just to where the logs come up. And then I made 2 little bows of that little neutral ribbon, and I'm just going to apply that right to the front. Now all you have to do is add your 2 votive candles, light them up, and enjoy your creation. Oh my goodness, I really enjoy how warm and cozy this really looks. Now when I saw these glasses at the Dollar Tree, I saw those little crystal effects in the glass, and I knew they would look great with the fire from the candle, so I had to try them as a candle holder. Of one of these microfiber mop heads from the Dollar Tree. You'll also need this holiday glitter deer from the Dollar Tree. Now the first thing we're going to do is to take our deer, and we want to make sure we remove all of the tags and labels. Now I need my deer to have a white background, and you can remove the glitter, but it's kind of messy, so I'm just going to simply seal it up with a coat of white acrylic paint. Now all you want to do is paint the entire body of the deer with the paint, and we want to make sure we leave those antlers silver. Now once this side dries, we're just going to flip it over and we're going to paint the body on the back as well. Now when both sides dry, I'm going to cover the antlers with a coat of this Mod Podge to stop the glitter shed. And oops, I did pour a little too much, but that's okay. Just apply a coat to the front and the back of the antlers and let them dry completely. Now while that dries, go ahead and grab your mop head, and what we're going to do is prepare it for use. Now you just want to remove it from all of the packaging, and you want to start to separate the strands at the bottom middle so you can see this black clasp in the middle. Now there are two plastic connections holding this mop head in place, and we just want to take a pair of wire clippers and snip them on each side. Once that's removed, your fibers are now free, and you can just detangle and separate them into each strand. Now my mop head ended up having 3 strands, but I have seen them with 2 or even 4 strands. Now here is the barcode in case you need to look these up. Now that our deer is dry, I'm just going to grab my Surebonder silicone mat and I'm going to prepare to cover the deer. Now what we want to do is to start in the middle of the deer, adding our strands, and we want to make sure it's a straight line. Now to make sure I don't get off track, I just went back and I made several vertical lines on my deer with a pencil just to make sure my strands are going to be applied nice and straight. So now we can start applying the strands in the middle, and I cut a piece down to size, and I'm going to leave some overlap on the top and the bottom so I can overlap it to the back. And then we're just going to continue to add those strands from the middle and work your way out. Now here is my progress so far. Now as you get closer to the ends, you want to add a piece of the strand in shorter pieces so it'll look more cohesive. And now our deer is all covered. Now we just want to flip it over, and we want to take those edges and we're going to secure them to the back of the deer, and all we want to do is apply a little bit of hot glue under each strand and then smooth it into place. Now you do want to occasionally flip it over to make sure everything looks nice and even. So then you just want to go ahead and finish up the rest of the securing of those loose pieces. Now you can just wrap this mop head around in one piece, but I think that doing individual strands helps with the alignment, and it also uses less of the mop head. So now that our deer is all covered, we just want to trim down the fuzz on the mop head at the deer's head, and now that is ready to go. So now what we're going to do is cover the back, and I'll be just using craft paper for this. So I'm just going to lay my deer on top and then cut a piece down to size. Now I'm going to start adding hot glue to my deer, and I want to start at the head and neck area at first, and then I want to flip it over and press it on to that craft paper. And once that's in place, just complete adhering the rest of the deer to the paper in sections until the back is covered completely. And once everything is done, we can go ahead and take our X-Acto knife, and what I want to do is just trim off the excess paper around the deer. And now here's our deer, and the back is neatly covered. So now we can start embellishing our deer, and I will be using this checkered ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut a piece and I'm going to use this to tie a bow around the base of the deer's neck. And then we can start adding some greenery, and I'm going to use some pieces of berry and holly from my stash. We just want to go ahead and bundle these up together and then trim them down to fit. Now once we add that to the bundle, we can go ahead and also trim down the bow to our liking. And then just add a dab of that hot glue to secure the greenery into place. And now it's all decorated for the holiday. Now to hang this lightweight piece, just add some hot glue to a piece of jute string with knotted ends, and you are all done and ready to hang. And here it is. You can hang this deer up on display. How cute is he? Now I just love the marbled look of the Mophead fibers on this, and it really turned out great. And adding this little bow and a small bundle of holiday berries and greenery really adds the perfect touch. Now if you can't find the Mopheads, you can try this with chunky yarn, a nautical rope, or any other string fibers of your choice. Just have fun with it. Now for this project, I am going to use a piece of white foam board from the Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to use some of these wood snowflakes and some snowflake ribbon that I got from clearance last year, as well as a bundle of greenery. Now I'm going to take my protractor this time, and I am going to, not protractor, compass. Yeah, compass. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna make a 10-inch circle on my foam board for my wreath, and then I'm going to go in and I am going to take a 1.5-inch smaller circle on the inside, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut it out with an X-Acto knife. Now I'm only cutting this wreath form out because I do not have any 10-inch wire forms, and I'm just showing you an alternative way that you could use your foam board for a wreath form if you do not have a wire wreath form. So now I'm going to take some of that burlap snowflake ribbon, and then I'm going to start hot gluing it around my foam board wreath form, and I want to start wrapping it around in an angle. Now if you wrap it in an angle, it seems to have more coverage and you'll use less ribbon. Now as you wrap this around, you want to wrap it around 2 or 3 times, and then go ahead and just secure it with hot glue as you go randomly around the circle. Now once you get to the end, just go ahead and trim it nice and even and fold those raw edges under and hot glue them into place. So now I'm going to take one of those wooden snowflakes, and I'm going to take some leftover acrylic water mix, and I'm going to just go ahead and stain this to match the other items in this DIY. And then once it dries, go ahead and take some jute twine, and I want to tie a double knot onto the end of that snowflake, trim it down, and then secure it in place with a little hot glue. Now this will be a snowflake that actually hangs in the middle of my wreath form, so we're going to set this to the side until we finish adding the greenery. So I'm going to use a couple sprigs of cedar on this wreath, and I'm just going to apply them into place. Now once those are nice and hot glued down, I'm going to take some of those frosted pieces of greenery right on top of that, and I'm just going to hot glue those in place as well. Now I'm going to be adding a couple pine cones here, but in order to make sure it's nice and centered, what I'm going to do is I am going to add a little double bow that I created from that same ribbon, and I'm going to put that on first. And then I'm going to add one of the pine cones on each side of that bow. Now once that is all secure, we can move on to adding our snowflake in the center, and we're just going to make sure it's nice and even, and we're just going to hot glue that string right on the back of our wreath form and let our snowflake dangle down. Now you add a loop to the back, and all you can do now is go ahead and hang your beautiful wreath. I love how it turned out. Now this greenery adds the perfect pop of winter to this, and using the foam board as a wreath form, I love to do that. It saves money, and sometimes you can't find what you need at the Dollar Tree, so this is a great alternative, and it still turns out really nice. We'll start with 2 of these bells from the Dollar Tree, some mini pine cones from the Dollar Tree. We'll also need some greenery. I had these on hand, and some ribbon of your choice. Now the first thing we're going to do is remove all of the bows and the greenery from both of the bells. Now I wanted these to have a silver tone, so I'm going to paint a coat of this brilliant silver spray paint by Krylon on the bells inside and out. And now that the bells are dry, we can paint them with a galvanized look. So to do this, I'm going to use some white acrylic paint and some pavement gray acrylic paint. Now with a small brush, I'm just going to start applying that gray paint by tapping the side of the brush on the bell. And then I'm going to follow up by tapping some of that white acrylic paint on next. And here's what it looks like so far. Now to blend in the 2 layers, I'm going to mix the gray and the white together, and I'm going to dab this on with a small chip brush. And you want to repeat the process until both bells are complete and let them sit to dry. Now to seal in that finish, we're going to be using this matte Mod Podge, and I picked up this bottle from the Dollar Tree. You just want to apply 1 coat of that Mod Podge to the entire outside of the bells. And now that they're completely dry, we can decorate them. So just go ahead and grab all of your trimmings, and I have some greenery, some berry garland, and some mini pine cones. Now we're going to start with the greenery, and all you have to do is insert that stem into that little hole at the top of the bell, and then just trim it down to fit. And then I'm going to add some of that berry garland, and I'm kind of going to intertwine it with that greenery. And then just start to add a dab of hot glue in areas where you would like to add your pine cones. Now at the top of my bells, I will be using this checkered ribbon, and I'm just going to tie it into a simple bow. And to hang the bells, I will use some jute twine, and I like to seal the end of it with hot glue to help thread it through small holes at the top of each bell. Now once each one of the bells is looped on, I'm just going to go ahead and trim those strings down. Now I wanted my bells to hang staggered, so I'm just arranging them in that fashion and then tying a knot at the top and trimming it down. And then as a final touch, I'm going to hot glue that ribbon, and I'm going to hot glue 1 to each of the bells. and then we can trim those tails of the ribbon to fit. And now these are ready to go. Now you can hang these up and enjoy your beautiful creation. Now I love the simplistic look of these and the subtle touch of holiday decor. I mean, whether you display these on their own or with a wreath, they would make a beautiful addition to your home. Now you all have to let me know which one of these projects was your favorite today. Listen, I hope that you all enjoyed seeing these creations again, or for some of you for the very first time. I hope that you're all inspired to create your own winter and holiday home decor using the different supplies presented in this video. Now, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. You want to make sure that you're following She's So Crafty EE on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. And if you like videos like these and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed by clicking that subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen, and make sure you hit that bell to be notified when the next DIY goes live. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.